Did you know that the men who built fortunes lasting 5 whole generations weren't smarter than you at all? They just weren't breaking the laws the Creator built into money, long before the first bank ever opened its doors. You are about to learn the 4 laws that decide whether your work turns into wealth or disappears, no matter what. No matter how hard you swing the hammer, day after day, year after year, without ever seeing it pay off for you. This is the difference between the man who builds something that outlives him and the man who works for nothing. He works himself into the ground for nothing, while another man builds something that lasts for generations. Here's the truth nobody ever told you. Money isn't broken. Your relationship with money is what's broken. Society told you money was luck, or timing, or being sharp enough to catch a break. None of that was ever true. Long before Wall Street, long before your bank app, God wrote the laws that govern every single dollar you touch. And those laws haven't changed since, no matter how modern and complicated the world around you looks today. Why do some men build wealth that outlasts them, while others work themselves into the ground and end with nothing? Because wealth was never about effort alone. It's about which of the Creator's laws you're actually following, and which ones you're breaking, most of the time, without even knowing their names or understanding their weight. In this video, we're going to cover 4 laws that are older than any economy man has ever built for himself. And if you stay with me until the end, you won't just understand your money a little better than you do right now. You'll understand the debt that's been quietly running your life and the patience you've been running from for years. You'll understand the kind of peace a man only finds when he stops chasing luck and starts living by design instead. Not his own design, the one his life was actually built on, long before he ever showed up to claim any of it. Every dollar lost, to debt, to impatience, to a shortcut that felt smart at the time, wasn't bad luck at all. That was a law you broke, plain and simple, whether you noticed it happening at the time or not. Most men will never admit that out loud, not even to themselves. But you already know, deep down, that it's true. That's exactly why you're still watching this video right now, instead of scrolling right past it like the rest. This isn't motivation, this is mechanism. Boy chases the shortcut. Man learns the law instead of the shortcut. Let's get started right now with the first law every man in this room needs to understand. Number 1, the law of the harvest. Every man on this ranch understands one thing before anything else about money. You cannot reap what you did not plant. Not this season, not ever. There is no shortcut around this law, no matter how badly a man wants one. A man who wants a harvest without planting a single seed has a name. He's called a thief, plain and simple. And you already know, deep down, that you are not that man, and you never wanted to be. Why does that matter so much? Because the same law that runs the fields also runs your bank account. Scripture doesn't hide this law. It opens with it, right from the very first pages of the whole book. In the garden, God didn't tell Adam he'd eat from another man's labor or another man's field of work. He told him he'd eat bread by the sweat of his own face, from his own ground, his own honest work. Not the sweat of another man. His own sweat, his own ground, his own harvest to keep or to lose. That's the whole foundation. Everything else in this video is really just commentary on that one law. Here's where most men get it wrong. They want the harvest, the truck, the land, the comfortable retirement, without ever planting the seed of honest, consistent work day after day, season after season, year after year. And when the field stays empty, they blame the soil. They blame the market, the boss, the whole system. Anyone but the man who never planted a single seed in the first place, back when he had the chance to. Look at the man who inherited a fortune he never built with his own 2 hands. Watch him for 5 years. More often than not, it's gone because he skipped the planting and went straight for the harvest instead. And a harvest without roots underneath it simply doesn't hold, no matter how impressive it looked at first. Inheritance without roots rots. Now look at the man who started with nothing but a work ethic and a piece of land. Give him 20 years. He'll outlast the man who was handed everything on a silver platter without earning it. That's not chance. That's the law, working exactly as it was designed to work from the very beginning. But there's a second layer to this law, the one that separates real wealth from a house of cards. Proverbs puts it plainly: treasures gained by dishonest means don't profit a man at all in the end, but righteousness delivers from death. Money you steal, cheat, or manipulate your way into never stays for long. You can plant a stolen seed. It will sprout fast, sometimes even faster than the honest one beside it. It will not grow into anything you can actually keep for yourself or pass down to your own sons. The IRS finds it eventually. The lawsuit finds it. The partner who trusted you finds out the ugly truth. One way or another, dishonest money always finds the door and lets itself back out again, sooner or later. So here's the application. Before you take a dollar, a deal, a shortcut, a deduction you can't defend, ask one question: did I earn this, or did I take it from a man who actually earned it himself, honestly? That question, asked honestly, will keep more money in your hands over 40 years than any strategy will, than any investment strategy you will ever learn from a book, a podcast, or a stranger online, ever. That's the whole game. Plant honest, reap honest. There is no other harvest that actually lasts a lifetime. Number 2, the leash and the leverage. A rope on a ranch can do two very different jobs, depending entirely on who's holding the other end of it. Tied wrong, it keeps a calf tethered too close to the wolves, unable to run when real danger comes near. Tied right, it guides an ox to exactly the pasture that feeds him for the rest of the whole season. Same rope, opposite outcome. Everything depends on the hand holding it and the reason it was tied at all. Debt works the same way. Most debt is a leash pulled tight around a man's neck, one payment at a time. It steals your peace. It makes you a servant to a payment instead of a builder of an actual future. The borrower is servant to the lender. That's not a modern complaint. That's an old law that never expired. But not all debt is a leash. Some debt is leverage, money borrowed that buys you a real working asset, one that pays you back in cash flow or grows your net worth faster than the interest ever costs you. That kind of debt isn't slavery. That's a tool in a working man's hand, used with a real plan behind it. The same way a good rancher uses a loan to buy land that will feed his family for 3 generations. Not a loan to buy a truck that's worth half its price the moment he drives it off the lot for good. Here's the test, simple enough to run in your head before you ever sign anything at all. Does this debt make you money, or does it just make you feel rich for one single season of your life? If it doesn't build income or build equity, it's a leash. If it does both, then it's real leverage. Everything else is just noise, dressed up in a suit to sound smarter than it actually is. High-value men know the difference before they ever sign anything at all, no matter how much pressure. Weak men don't ask the question at all. They just sign, then wonder 6 months later why it hurts so much. Why the payment feels heavier than the thing it bought them in the first place, back when it felt smart. That's power under control, not fear of debt. Mastery of it, the same way a rancher masters a rope. Number 3, and this one is the hardest to hear out of all 4. Go watch an ant for 30 seconds. No urgency in its movement at all. No panic in how it moves. It carries 1 grain at a time all summer long, while the grasshopper sings in the shade nearby and mocks it for working so hard, for so little, so slowly, day after day after day. Winter comes. It always comes, whether you're ready for it or not, whether you believe it or not. The ant eats, the grasshopper starves. That's how the story always ends, every single time. That's not a children's story. That's the entire architecture of wealth compressed into one field. Compressed into one field and two animals, one patient and one convinced that patience is weakness. Here's the law underneath it. Everything valuable in this world is built low and slow in the dark, before it's ever seen high and fast, out in the open, where everyone can finally applaud it. A root grows down into the dark, in complete silence, for months before a single leaf breaks the surface. You don't see it working. It's working anyway, whether you believe in it or not, whether you watch or not. The same applies to a man's money. Nobody sees the years of saving, the years nobody ever claps for. Nobody claps for the retirement account you didn't touch, the truck you didn't buy this year, the vacation you skipped so the down payment could sit there and grow instead, quietly, unseen. That work happens underground. It happens in silence, far from anyone who could ever applaud it. And most men quit right before the root would have finally broken the surface of the ground, because silence feels like failure, and a man mistakes invisible progress for no progress at all. Think about the two men who start the same job on the same day at exactly the same pay. 10 years pass. One of them has a truck payment, a boat he uses 4 times a year, nothing saved, and a savings account that never once crosses 4 figures, no matter how many raises he gets. The other drives something plain, says no to the boat, keeps his head down and his mouth shut, and has a number in an account that quietly doubled twice while nobody around him was watching. Nobody at the barbecue is impressed by the second man. Not yet. That's simply the price of the law. It doesn't pay in applause. It pays in decades, long after everyone else has stopped watching him. Why does this matter more than almost anything else in your entire financial life right now? Because the size of your future is decided by one single question asked over and over again. Do you want the truck today or the income tomorrow? Do you want to feel rich this weekend? Or do you want to actually be rich in 15 years, when the weekend stops mattering at all? That's called time preference. Economists have a fancy name for it. Your grandfather just called it patience. And it is the single biggest predictor of whether a man dies broke or dies building something. Something that outlives him completely, long after his own name has been forgotten by strangers. Low time preference means you value tomorrow more than today, every single time it counts. High time preference means today always wins, every single time, and tomorrow pays the bill for it. Here's what that looks like in a man's actual life, not just as some abstract theory in a book. High time preference is the raise that turns into a bigger truck payment instead of an investment. It's the bonus that becomes a vacation instead of a paid-off debt hanging over your whole family. It's every decision measured by how it feels this Friday, never by where it leaves you later. Never by where it leaves you standing 20 Fridays from now, when the feeling has worn off. Simp behavior with money looks like high time preference wearing a very nice watch on its wrist. High value behavior looks like low time preference wearing whatever still fits from 10 years ago. Because the man wearing it already knows exactly what he's building toward, patiently, quietly. And it isn't the opinion of the men standing around him at the barbecue with their new trucks. Solomon wrote it 3,000 years before behavioral economics ever gave it a fancy name at all. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. Not might come to poverty, comes to poverty. That's not a warning. That's an ironclad promise, running in the exact opposite direction from the one you actually wanted it to run in. And here's where this law stops being merely disappointing and starts becoming truly dangerous. Every man who has ever lost his savings to a pyramid scheme, a guaranteed crypto play, a bad deal, a friend's can't-miss deal, didn't get unlucky at all. He got impatient first, before anything else. And the loss was simply the bill that arrived afterward. once the impatience had already done its work. He heard a voice promising speed, fast returns, skip the line, skip the years of waiting entirely. And that voice was never the voice of order, no matter how convincing it sounded at the time. Fear God, not men, and know that any voice rushing you toward wealth without years of root work underneath it was never speaking on God's behalf, no matter what it claimed about itself. Patience is a divine law. Hurry is a temptation dressed up as opportunity. Wearing a nice suit. Wearing a nice suit and carrying a pitch deck, smiling the whole time it's taking your money. That's the part most men never hear. So let it land completely before we move any further. Before that man ever lost $1 to the scheme, he had already broken the law of patience. He had already broken it quietly, in his own heart, long before the scheme ever found him. The financial loss was just the law collecting what it was already owed, with interest attached. That's uncomfortable to hear. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. Comfort was never the point here. We could spend an entire video on how to spot a scheme before it ever spots you first. The promises, the pressure, the silence around the fine print, the urgency that always comes first. That's a conversation for another video. Hold on to that thought for now. We'll come back to it. For now, here's the application. Simpler than any investment strategy you'll ever be sold by anyone. Before every financial decision, ask yourself one honest question. Am I doing this because it's right, or because I'm impatient and looking for a shortcut around years I don't want to actually put in? If the honest answer is impatience, walk away. Every single time. No exceptions made for anyone. No matter how good the deal sounds at midnight, no matter who's telling you it won't last past Friday, run that question through every offer that lands in your inbox, promising to double your money fast. Promising to double it in 90 days flat. It will save you more than any advisor you'll ever pay. The ant doesn't check the weather forecast for permission to keep working through the season. It just keeps carrying the grain, one trip at a time, with no proof yet that winter will even come. Strong but controlled. That's the man who wins this game, not the fastest man in the entire room. The most patient one. The market doesn't reward the man who moves first out of fear or excitement. It rewards the man who's still standing after everyone in a hurry has already been wiped out completely. But the last one is the one that decides whether men trust you with everything or with nothing at all. Number 4. And this is the one most men completely miss every single time it matters most. Every rancher who's ever run a spread longer than one season learns the same lesson the hard way. A fence isn't cruelty. A fence is what makes the land worth anything at all, generation after generation. Take the fence down, thinking that's what generosity looks like, and you don't get a more giving ranch. You get an empty one, the herd scattered, the water trampled, the land grazed bare by anyone passing, by anyone who wandered in, because nothing marked what was actually worth protecting in the first place. That's the mistake a lot of good men make with their money, and honestly, with themselves too. They hear "be generous" and translate it into "have no limits at all for anyone who asks ever." Say yes to every ask. Cover every friend's bad decision. Lend to the brother-in-law who never pays back. Then lend again. Because saying no feels like the opposite of faith, like a betrayal of who you claim to be. It isn't. It's the opposite of wisdom, and those two things are not the same thing at all. Generosity without discernment isn't a virtue. It's just an open gate with your name on the deed, and everyone passing through it knows exactly who to ask every single time they need something. Here's the reframe. Being generous was never the same thing as being available to be used by anyone. The same God who tells a man to give also tells him to plan, to steward, to know what's actually his. What's his to give, and what isn't his to give away in the first place, no matter how good it feels. A man who hands out what he hasn't secured for his own family first isn't generous, he's negligent. Negligent. Wearing generosity as a disguise, so nobody, including himself, can see it for what it is. That's the hard sentence. Read it twice if you need to, because most men only read it once and move on. So what does real generosity look like? Once the fence is up and the boundary is finally respected, it looks like giving from surplus you built on purpose, not from scarcity you never planned for. It looks like helping a man rebuild, not funding a man's refusal to build anything at all himself. It looks like a yes that costs you something real, but never a yes that costs your family everything. Never a yes that costs everything because you were too afraid to say no to a total stranger. Be the man your family needs before you try to be the man everyone else around you wants you to be. That order isn't selfish. That order is the only version of generosity that survives past one generation. Think about the 4 laws we just walked through: the harvest, the leverage, and the patience. The harvest you plant honestly, the leverage you handle with discipline, the patience nobody claps for. Every one of those laws requires a fence around it, or it eventually gets picked apart by someone. A harvest with no fence gets stolen before it's ever even stored away safely for the winter ahead. Leverage with no fence turns into a leash again, the same trap dressed up in a different name. Patience with no fence gets drained by every emergency that isn't actually yours to solve at all. The fence doesn't contradict the other 3 laws at all. The fence is what protects them long enough. Long enough to become something you can actually pass down to a son who never even met you. That's the whole point of a legacy, not what you built in one single lifetime, working alone. What survives long enough to reach a man who never even met you, generations down the line. A generous man with no fence dies broke and confused about why nobody around him respects him. A generous man with a fence dies as the reason his family never has to start over from zero again. Strong but controlled, power under control, not a closed hand, not an open door to anyone who knocks. A gate with a man standing at it who knows exactly who it's for and exactly who it isn't for. 4 laws. The harvest, you can't cheat. The leverage, you master, instead of fearing it. The patience that builds in silence. The fence that makes your generosity actually mean something. Instead of costing you everything you spent a lifetime building for your own family, none of them work alone. Take one away, and the other 3 eventually fail too, sooner or later. A man can be patient and still get robbed by dishonest planting he never should have done. A man can plant honestly and still lose it all to a leash he mistook for real leverage. The 4 laws hold each other up. That's why most men who break one usually break 2 or 3. 2 or 3 without even realizing it, because the laws were never meant to stand alone. But underneath all 4, there's one law that holds the rest together, quietly, permanently. And it's the one most men leave for last, if they ever even get to it at all in their lifetime. Every law we just walked through only works when a man puts the Creator first, before the money, before the ranch, before his own plan for how this was all supposed to go according to him. Get that order right, and the harvest, the leverage, the patience, and the fence all fall into place. All fall into place behind it naturally, the way a house stands when the foundation is right. Get it backward, and no amount of discipline will hold the structure up for very long at all. That's the man who builds something that outlasts him completely, long after he's gone. Not the fastest, not the loudest, the one whose priorities were in the right order from the start. Before his bank account ever caught up to them, before anyone else even noticed the difference. Power under control. That's the whole legacy, in 3 words, if you remember nothing else today. Now, here's what I actually want from you before you go. Not a like, not yet. Something more. Every man watching this has already lived one of these 4 laws, whether he admits it or not. Either you kept it and it built something, or you broke it and it cost you something you still pay for. Maybe you planted dishonest once and watched it rot in your hands, right in front of you. Maybe you mistook a leash for leverage and it took you 5 long years to finally cut it loose. Maybe you were patient when everyone around you wasn't, and you're the only one still standing. Go to the comments and tell the men in this room which of these 4 laws you learned the hard way, and how it actually went for you. Not the highlight reel, the real version, the honest one. Some man reading it tonight is standing exactly where you were standing before you learned that. Your story might be the fence that saves him from tearing his own family's fence down completely. By the way, if this hits something in you, hit like and subscribe. It helps more men find this table. Until next time.